Hey guys, this is Nadia and this is She Builds Again. It's a Monday morning. I feel excited about the week ahead. I have so much to do and I'll hopefully be able to jump in again and update you. But I'm here with a coconut. I'm getting my hydration on and I wanted to jump in and talk to you a little bit about relocating overseas. So for us, we moved 3 years ago and it was out of absolute necessity for my mental health to relocate because I was so tired. I felt like I was pushing a boulder up a hill and it felt like I was barely getting anywhere. On the outside looking in, maybe my life looked okay to most people and I was still being as productive as I could. I was still investing in myself with coaching and masterminds. I had my own business. It was an award-winning business, but I felt so drained. I felt so exhausted. I felt like I was barely showing up as a mother. I was literally coming home and shutting down and sitting in front of the TV watching Korean dramas for hours. And it just wasn't a vibrant way to live my life. It wasn't a exciting way to live my life. And it wasn't a story that I wanted to be able to tell my grandkids about. It was a really boring, safe life. And yes, I miss so much about my close proximity to my family and being able to spend Christmas and all the holidays with them. But I think overall my life is so much more rich and meaningful now. So I'm going to go into some of those details about the transition and how we were able to make it a successful one. And hopefully you get something from this episode. And so one thing I wanted to talk about is what surprised me the most when I first relocated. One of the things that I found out was that there is definitely a honeymoon period when you relocate. Everything in the beginning feels so fun and you're spending all the money because it's so much less, especially in Southeast Asia, than it was where we used to live. And you're able to go get massages 3 times a week and you're able to go out and eat out all the time. And we were going out to parties, we were having fun. Our son was in school most of the day and then we had nannies and babysitters on the weekends sometimes. And so because of that, we had so much free time. We were meeting new people, we were just figuring things out. But the honeymoon period always ends in relationships and also in relocating. I would say after the first year, the honeymoon period had ended. I was pregnant with our second child and it was hot. I was sick and tired and I stayed home a lot. It had completely done a 180 on our lifestyle over here. But there were some good things that came out of that as well, because instead of just doing all the things, we had to be intentional about how we spent our time because we didn't have as much time and energy. And I would say life happens. Like after the honeymoon period, you do realize that like life is hard. There are challenges. You have to go through visa issues. You have to go through friendship transitions. You have to actually build a solid community, and that takes investment and emotion and connection. And so I would say that one of the amazing things that has happened since the last 2 years, since we've had real life in Southeast Asia, is that we've just had to learn how to be so much more intentional with our time. And we built so much more healthy habits. Like I feel like before, when we lived in our old country, our hometown, life just fell into its own pattern and we hadn't taken the time to examine that and why we were doing certain things and why our life was just working until 5 p.m., going through traffic, and then getting home and being exhausted and laying on the couch and watching Netflix and making dinner. And that was it. And repeat. Because of that cycle, it was just not working for us. There was so little joy in our lives, but we didn't know how to break it because that's how we had built up our lives for so long. And so coming here and relocating, it's a refresh. It's a new start to look at how you're living your life, how you're spending your time, and actually make healthier decisions for yourself and your family. And so for me now, every day includes exercise and self-care, and I still get massages, although not as often as I did in that honeymoon period. Just being intentional about pouring into our son, being there for after-school activities, being there for our daughter who's 18 months old now, having an amazing community of support around us, from our cleaner, who is literally like one of my closest friends, and our nanny, who is just the sweetest human ever. And so really building a community and building a lifestyle and habits that are healthy and long-term sustainable. So those are the things that kind of surprised me when we relocated, that honeymoon period versus that real life, and some of the hard things that we've had to navigate, like setting up bank accounts and setting up businesses and all of the legal work. But in that real life section, I feel like we've been able to do really well with setting up healthier habits. It's both good and bad. The second part of this video is I want to talk about how we were able to handle some of the culture shocks that we went through. I would say that thankfully we're in a part of the world where the people are so warm and welcoming and friendly and kind. There weren't that many huge culture shocks. Like, I'm from an island. This is a different island in Southeast Asia. And there are some similarities, but obviously there are still lots of differences. There's a language barrier, there's a religion differences, even some of the cultural heritage and holidays here is just so different and beautiful, and we're still learning about all of that. I would say that thankfully it wasn't a huge culture shock, but we have had to slowly learn their way of doing things here. One of the things I would say is we've learned customer service is really good here, but it's also tricky compared to how we would do things back home. Like, me and my husband, it's one small thing that always irritates us is that, like, the exchange policy is like non-existent here. Like, you buy something and even if it doesn't fit, like, there's no returns, there's no exchanges. That's been a little pet peeve of ours since we moved. But if you think about all the beautiful things, then this is just one very small annoyance. The last thing I wanted to talk about is what is the biggest lesson that I've learned about starting over in a new country. So I would say the biggest lesson that I've learned is that you hold the pen to your story and you are a co-creator with God. So there are these blank pages and he's downloading these dreams, he's putting desires in your heart, but you get to hold that pen and you get to write and make those decisions. He's given us full autonomy over our lives. And I think the cool thing about relocating is you literally get a restart, a refresh, and you get to learn new things about yourself. You get to challenge yourself in new ways. You get to build new habits and new ways of thinking. And so that's just been something that I am just so grateful for, because I think that my mindset has changed completely since moving out here. I feel stronger, I feel more steady, I feel more present. Things are not perfect, but I just feel as though I am more centered, and there is a sense of peace that comes from, thankfully, being in an environment that is healthier for you. And so I'll just share really briefly, but in our previous hometown, it was a situation of being in a really small island and so many things happening. Life is hard. You lose a parent, at least that was my story. You lose a parent and then you go through a breakup or you face betrayal with different relationships. And there's so many things that happen that bruise us, that hurt us, that leave a little mark on us. And I felt that because I was in such a small environment and everyone knew everything about everyone, it was so hard to heal in that kind of space. It was like you have a breakup and then you have to see your ex every week. It just keeps reopening that wound. It keeps making it harder to find peace and closure and move on. And so I would say since relocating, I've been able to process things differently. I feel like I have a higher view of what life is about and what my story is that God's writing through me. And I'm just really excited that I get a fresh page, a fresh start, but also an opportunity to grow and learn and to hopefully inspire other people. That's my dream. If one day people can see my story and know that it's possible for them too. I'm not some unicorn, I'm not some millionaire tech founder or anything like that, but I was able to relocate internationally. I was able to do it with my family. My husband even did it when I was in my late 30s, not in my early 20s. So because of that, I have a different perspective on what life is like now on the other side, because we've journeyed over the last 3 years and it's been high and low and everything in between. And so I hope that you got something out of this episode. If you've ever relocated or if you ever dreamed of relocating, I'd love to hear where it is that you want to go in the world. And if you like this content, please like and subscribe. And I can't wait to see you in the next video.